evening. This is Friday, October 31st, 4 days until the 2008 presidential election. It was at this exact stage of the 2004 presidential election that an Osama bin Laden video conveniently turned up 4 days before Mr. Bush's re-election. Our fifth story in the countdown, the only October video surprise as of the trick-or-treat hour, a very scary tape of former Bush 41 Secretary of State Lawrence Eagleburger retracting a swipe he took at Sarah Palin. Oh, there was Barack Obama's October video surprise, his new commercials in Arizona. Senator Obama's campaign manager, David Plouffe, saying in a conference call today that if anybody beside John McCain had been the Republican nominee, Arizona already would have been a battleground state, adding that Obama is performing well with Hispanic voters there. As it stands now, Senator McCain with just a 1-point lead in Arizona, according to the Research 2000 poll for the Daily Kos. Among early voters in that state, 17% of the electorate already casting ballots, the Democrat up by 12. Meanwhile, Senator Obama widening his lead in the National Gallup daily tracking poll among traditional likely voters. What had been a 3-point margin on Wednesday before the Obama infomercial is now 8, the largest margin to date for Gallup using its historical voter model. Senator Obama tonight trick-or-treating with his daughter back home in Chicago. Earlier in the day, taking a sentimental journey of sorts to Iowa.
On the day of the Iowa caucus, my faith in the American people was vindicated. And what you started here in Iowa has swept the nation. We're seeing the same turnout. We're seeing the same people going and getting in line, volunteers, people participating. A whole new way of doing democracy started right here in Iowa, and it's all across the country now.
Senator Obama reminding those voters in Iowa, though, that nothing is decided yet and nothing will be until all the ballots are counted. In Florida, the Democratic nominee getting some help with that message from the candidate who learned it the very hardest way imaginable. Al, the former future president of the United States.
There is a very clear choice in this election. And Florida, as you know, may well be the state that determines the outcome of this election. You may well be the person who determines the outcome here in Florida. This is the time to really turn it on.
Senator McCain's campaign manager, Rick Davis, claiming today to be dead even in Iowa. At an Ohio rally with California Governor Schwarzenegger tonight, Senator McCain seeming to go after his opponent for saying that his faith in American people was vindicated.
I've been fighting for this country since I was 17 years old, and I have the scars to prove it. My country has never had to prove anything to me. I've always had faith in it. If I'm elected president, I will fight to shake up Washington and take America in a new direction from my first day in office until my last. I'm not afraid of the fight. I'm ready for the fight.
In one of 2 new advertisements released today, though, Senator McCain still hoping that the words of Senator Obama could be the difference in turning things around.
The truth on global warming.
The right approach begins with the proposal put forward by Senator Lieberman and Senator McCain. The Lieberman-McCain bill establishes limits for greenhouse gas emissions. It's a framework that's not only good for the environment, it's also good for business. I want to thank Senator Lieberman as well as Senator McCain for the outstanding leadership that they've shown.
I'm John McCain, and I approve this message.
Let's turn now to our own Howard Fineman, senior Washington correspondent for Newsweek magazine. Howard, good evening.
Hi, Keith.
I know it's a familiar tactic to try to use your opponent's words against him, but doesn't that new McCain ad seem to be not only more about Senator Obama than Senator McCain, but doesn't it seem to sort of make Senator Obama look as good as, if not better than, Senator McCain as just a guy?
Well, not only that, Keith, I don't remember the last time where one guy sort of was advertising the endorsement of his opponent. I mean, basically, McCain is saying, vote for me because Barack Obama endorsed me. And surely that adds to Barack Obama's credibility, even in the eyes of the people who are watching the McCain ad. It's extraordinary. I don't even think I've seen anything like it because it assumes that Obama is a credible endorser. That's the whole point of the election.
Right. But you want that socialist terrorist sympathizer endorsing your candidate.
Yes. He's saying nice things about me.
So that part you should believe him in. What are you going to do on a more serious vein? What are you keeping your eye on in terms of shifts over the weekend? What could change between now and Tuesday in either direction?
Well, the simple answer is I don't think that much. I think this weekend, by the way, is going to be the biggest extravaganza of ground-level organizing and phone calling and emailing that this country has ever seen, Keith. We should step back for just a minute to appreciate the fact that by the time voting is over on Tuesday, we will have maybe 25 or 35 million more people vote than have ever voted before. In absolute terms, it's going to be a record, and in percentage terms, it could well be the highest since the 60s. The sense of generational change and wave, earthquake, call it whatever you want, is out there. What I'm going to be looking at, there's a couple things. First of all, those early voting numbers, because as David Plouffe was pointing out in his conference call today, we have real data here. You know whether they're Democrats or Republicans in those early voting, not or exit polls, but you know how they're registered. And the Democrats are doing very well. I'm going to watch Florida. I'm going to watch some of those early voting states. By the time this is over, we may have at least a third of the country or more that's already voted by the end of this weekend. I'm going to be looking to see what candidates are going where. Now, Obama's putting money in Arizona. He's going out west. Does he make a detour through Arizona? I doubt it, but it'd be interesting to watch. And then I personally, here in Washington, am going to drive out to some of the small towns in Virginia, Northern Virginia, which are conservative bastions that the Obama campaign staked its future in Virginia on months ago, putting organizing offices in these small towns. I'm going to go back out. I wrote a piece for Newsweek months ago about a couple of them. I'm going to go back out and see what the action's like in those places this weekend. You mentioned the ground game. Since, regardless of what the early voting is like, most Americans are still going to vote on Tuesday. The Washington Post had this brutal piece today on how little McCain has been able to invest in Election Day ground forces. 538.com reported that it's visited remarkably empty McCain volunteer offices throughout the country. How much of what happens on Tuesday ultimately will come down to the ground game, do you think? I think it's huge, and I think everybody's talked about the overall amount of money that Obama has spent. The key is not the amount of money he spent overall, it's the percentage and the sheer dollar volume on ground-level organization. 4,000 paid organizers around the country, millions of volunteers, literally millions. And the key to the way they organize, Keith, is person to person, not back through the central headquarters, but that viral, viral is now a cliche, but it's true. Over the fence, back fences, person to person, without going through headquarters. That's happening all over the country. David Plouffe, the campaign manager, and the organization he's built is, if Obama wins, will be one of the 2 or 3 major stories of the night. Every generation produces a new method of organizing, going back to Andrew Jackson and the state parties and Franklin Roosevelt and the unions and Ronald Reagan and the conservative movement. Obama's bidding to make history not only by winning, but by redefining how political organizing is done in this country. That's why there's so much energy in his organizational effort right now. Howard Finema of Newsweek and MSNBC. Have a great, relaxing weekend, Howard. Thanks, Keith. You too.